At highway speeds, the average text takes your eyes off the road for about 5 seconds. That's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Stop texts, stopwrecks.org. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
You're listening to Living Full Out with Nancy Solari. As a successful motivational speaker and trusted life coach, Nancy knows how you can live the life you want regardless of the challenges you face. Although she's legally blind, Nancy's mission is to inspire others to overcome obstacles and live life full out. Call in at 800-333-0001 to ask Nancy for advice on topics such as relationships, finances, business, health, and more. Just call 800-333-0001. Once again, that's 800-333-0001. And now, here's Nancy.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Living Full Out show. So excited to be here with you. Today, we are going to be talking about giving. Honestly, living full out is so exciting when we can share with others, when we can give to others. And I've learned this firsthand because that's what I do. I mean, I love that we have this time together. Callers give their questions and together we find the motivation. And when we're giving, when we're doing life together, then the journey is a lot more exciting. Then it's a lot more fruitful. And there's a lot more to live for. So as we go through the show today, I want you to think about who you can give to in your life in terms of whether it be motivation, maybe you have a certain talent or gift that you can give to others, and then also perhaps what you may need from others, what you may need to ask for. And again, part of this show is that we are having callers call in, and that number again is 800-333-0001. So if you would like to get advice on how you be able to give to another person or ask for what you need in life, feel free to call in. In fact, we're going to go to the phone lines now. Welcome to the Living Full Out show.
Hi.
Hi. Thank you for calling in. What's going on today?
Thank you Well, I'm glad you're talking about motivation, because I'm going into my last year of college, and I feel like this should be an exciting time where I should be looking forward to doing all the experiences that maybe I haven't done. But instead, I feel like I have no motivation and no excitement and just like a lack of determination.
Where do you think that comes from?
I'm not sure. I remember back in high school, when I was a senior, we referred to it as senioritis. And I don't think I experienced it in high school because I was looking forward to college. And now, I mean, I'm looking forward to real life, and that's kind of scary. And I don't know.
Is it possible? I mean, are you overextended in life, or do you feel as though you've perhaps bit off more than you can chew?
I feel like that's who I am as a person. This semester is really loaded for me, but maybe that's what I need to give me that extra push to be qualified when I'm out. I don't know.
Well, one of the things you want to think about is quality of life. Okay. Right. I remember college. It was a while back, but I do remember it. And of course, there's a certain amount of credits you want to take per semester or quarter. And of course, college isn't free. So you might have a part-time job and then obviously the social life and all that. I mean, there's just various demands that are put on us, but you always want to consider quality of life and how you want to spend these years. Because yes, real life is coming. The world outside of your university is ahead of you. But this is such a precious time. When I look back at my time at the University of Oregon, I had so much fun. I jammed through a lot of internships. I did a lot of classes, and I probably actually could have graduated early. But the thing is you want to think about, are you really soaking up the most of this time of your life? Would you say you are?
I have so far. I mean, obviously I could have more fun. I could go out more. I could focus more. But
okay. So you're living life full out. You're doing life. You're not missing anything. So let's talk further about this lack of motivation then. Do you feel as though if you don't feel life is passing you by and you don't feel like you're overburdened, where do you think that lack of motivation comes from?
I think maybe I'm just worn out. Like I've been in college 4.5 years, and this is going to be my 10th semester in college, so I think that all of those past semesters are kind of stacking on me.
And is that frustrating?
It's not necessarily frustrating. Sometimes it gets a bit overwhelming, but
okay.
I don't feel like I don't have to be doing it. Does that make sense? Like, I feel like what I put myself through is something that I have to do.
But you're just really ready to move on. You're really ready to be done. Okay. So, and think about life in general, right? Sometimes we will be, let's just take, for example, a workout or a diet, right? Let's take a workout, right? You get excited when you start the workout, but then somewhere halfway through, you're like, is it almost over? Is it almost over? Right? That's a common feeling. But what you want to do is push through it. Always think about this major that you're getting, this career choice that you're going after. Always picture the end goal in mind and let that fuel your fire. So what is it that you want to be? What is it trying to do?
I'm trying to do political journalism.
Okay. And so you're an excellent writer, and obviously politics is interest to you, right?
Yes.
Okay. So when you are napping, when you're sleeping, when you're daydreaming, when you're talking to a stranger, you could say to them, I'm a student in school, or you could say to them, I'm working towards being a political journalist. What does that mean? Really envision the end in mind. Be that person. So yes, you've been in school now 4.5 years, so you are already that person. You're just, putting the icing on the cake of your education, but you are that person. So when you go to school, dress the part. Be that person. Start to really read books or, tap into maybe networking with other professionals in that arena. The more you do that, the more you put yourself in that environment, that will fuel your fire, because now you're no longer in this gray zone of I've been in college a long time and I'm not quite where I want to be yet. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Sure. Just really, really grab the reins by both hands and go for it. Is that something you can do?
Yes. And then I'm going to start my first internship, so I think that will be very helpful.
Absolutely. So keep us updated. Let us know how it goes, but we believe in you, and I'm sure it's going to work out great. And just, again, envision yourself, and because you're already that person. Okay?
All right. Thank you.
Thank you for calling in.
All right. Have a great day.
You too. Take care. So, she gave us a lot today, right? She gave us the need to envision who she wants to be, just like we can all do that for ourselves. So again, it's all about having focus. It's all about grabbing hold of life and being that person that you want to be. We're going to go back to the phone lines. Welcome to the Living Full Out Show.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. Nice to hear your voice. So share with us what's going on today.
I just wanted to ask, I have this problem. I live in LA, and my girlfriend, she lives in Sacramento. I just wanted to see if you have any advice or help for me for living in this long-term relationship right now. It's getting a little bit pretty difficult.
Yeah, long-term is tough. In fact, I've done that myself, and it's trying to figure out how to constantly remind that person how much you're thinking of them, right? And how much you care about them, even when life gets busy.
Of course.
First of all, I want to share with you a book that I read a long time ago called The 5 Love Languages. And it was a very interesting book because if you read that, it teaches you about the different languages of love that one would have. Like, I'm a person who likes affirmations. When someone tells me that they love me or I'm beautiful or anything like that, it really speaks to my heart, because I hearing those words, maybe because I'm legally blind, hearing those words resonates to my heart in a big way. Other people are people of service. They want you to do things for them, give them a massage, doing the dishes, anything of service would show that love. And so it would be very interesting to find out, first of all, what is her love language versus yours. And then also, asking her, just
putting it out there, putting your heart out there, asking her, how do you feel right now? Do you feel connected to me? Do you feel, as though you wonder sometimes what I'm doing, or, do you ever question my love for you? And just by putting those questions out there, it starts dialogue, because us women, we will think sometimes, if we don't hear from you, and within a certain amount of time, what is he doing? Oh, who is he talking to? Or, he doesn't think of me. It does happen. But then whether you're a man or a woman, sometimes personal space is really nice, because then you can miss that person, right?
Mm-hmm, of course.
So there's nothing more romantic than a guy who wants to talk about feelings. Now, I know that's a limited few, but I promise you, if you go to her and you just start dialogue, really just checking in, how are you doing? How do you feel about our relationship? I just want to make sure that you know that my love for you is very strong, and I think about you all the time, and I wish we lived closer. How could she possibly not hear those words and go, wow, that's romantic. And then just try to do things to constantly remind her. Send her a text, not overly doing it, but send her a text in the morning. I'm thinking of you. Send an email. Just do different things, do fun things. Send her a postcard from your university, something kind of fun.
Oh.
Things don't have to be expensive. One time my stepfather, he passed away now from leukemia, and it wasn't a romantic love, but it was a father-daughter affection. And sometimes he would literally take an index card, put a stamp on it, on the other side, write a message. I think you're the most amazing daughter, and I'm so proud of you. And I would get that, and I would go, wow, in my busy day, that's all I needed to give me that perk. So just the little things can sometimes show someone how much we care.
Wow, thank you very much for all of these helpful tips. I was actually really scared of not knowing what to do. I feel like we were actually miscommunicating with each other. But starting today, I will start implementing those things. Those are really helpful. Thank you very much. That was amazing.
You're very welcome. And thank you for calling in. And we'll be right back after this messages with Shayla Logan. We'll be back.
Isn't this dinner party wonderful? Jeanette and Bill did so much planning, and the house looks great.
Well, it was almost canceled. Did you hear that Bill was really sick with the flu 2 weeks ago?
No, I had no idea. I've been so busy at work. But my coworker's toddler was in the hospital with flu, too. Is Bill okay?
It was pretty serious and aggravated his asthma. Bill got sick quickly with a high fever. Fortunately, Jeanette got him to the doctor right away. The doctor said it was flu and prescribed a medication that helped him get back on his feet.
I didn't know flu was so serious until I heard Bill say he felt like he'd been hit by a truck. He missed a big meeting at work.
Well, thank goodness Jeanette had gotten her flu shot. Because, she's expecting.
What? Oh, man.
I guess that was another thing you guys didn't know either.
A message from the Department of Health and Human Services.
Hi. I can't come to the phone right now because I'm abusing my children. Not just verbally, but physically. I'll get back to you.
If only child abuse was this easy to recognize. If you even suspect abuse, call Child Help at 1-800-4A-CHILD or visit childhelp.org. We've helped millions of people help millions of children. All calls are anonymous and confidential, so call 1-800-4A-CHILD or visit childhelp.org. Child Help. Trust your instincts. Brought to you by Child Help and the Ad Council.
Driving has a rhythm all its own. Don't wreck it with a text. Before you get behind the wheel, silence your phone. Or better yet, designate a texter. For more text-free driving tips, visit stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
Today, you hit the snooze bar. You checked your email. You checked your fantasy football team. You rejected an insulting trade offer. You ate your lunch. You did all the things that one normally does the day before a 175-mile-per-hour hurricane blows through your city, leaving it in a state of ruin. You never know when the day before is the day before. Prepare for tomorrow at ready.gov/today. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
You're listening to Living Full Out with Nancy Solari. A professional motivational speaker, Nancy can help you overcome obstacles and start living full out. Call in with questions live at 800-333-0001. Once again, that's 800-333-0001. And now, here's Nancy.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Living Full Out Show. I am Nancy Solari, and very proud and excited to be here with you today. We are talking about giving, how in our life we can give to others and give to ourselves. Sometimes we put ourselves last, and you don't want to do that, because if you're not replenishing yourself in the daily work of life, if you're not doing self-care, you can't be to others what they need you to be for themselves. You're just kind of walking around kind of hollow and depleted and overwhelmed. But there are ways in which you can give to yourself that will fill up your spirit and make you feel whole, to motivate you. In fact, that's what we strive to do here at this show, by taking your calls and being of that support and having inspirational guests that we feel will empower you, because again, we've all been in really tough situations. In fact, I want to introduce our next guest, Shayla Logan. Shayla has been, in her past, in 23 different foster homes. She had been abused by her mentally ill mother for years before she was finally discovered and really rescued from that pain. And I want Shayla to really tell her story in her own words, but I'd like to welcome Shayla Logan. Hello, Shayla.
Hi. Thanks.
Hi.
It's good to be here.
Yeah. So, I am a fan of yours, but
Yes.
Your story is one that I will try to tell as many times as I can, because it has so many layers of the pain that we go through in life, but also the survival skills we learn to survive. And then beyond that, how we can take those lessons and give back to others. And you're such a perfect example. So we're going to jump on in. If you could share with our Living Full Out community a little bit about your lifestyle growing up, your relationship with your mom.
It was...
And Shayla, I'm sorry, if you could just talk a little bit louder, because it's kind of hard to hear you. Okay, perfect.
Is that better?
That is better. Thank you.
Okay. It's funny. I think my life as a child was kind of a polar opposite of what it is now. It was, I remember, I think the best way to encapsulate it, when I was, I think, in second grade, the teacher was going around the room and asking us what we wanted to be when we grew up. And she got to me and I said, alive, because that was kind of the best that I could hope for. That was the type of environment that I lived in, where just, making it to be a grown-up wasn't a guarantee in the environment that I was in. My mother was very abusive. She was mentally ill and kind of, had some, I think, meant well in terms of why she did things, but her execution of what she did was not at all, something that a logical, sane person would do. So for example, when I turned 10, I started, developing, and so she was afraid that I was getting fat. And so she decided that I needed to stop eating because that would prevent me from getting fat. And so I was allowed to have 1 cup of cereal for breakfast on one day and a boiled egg the next day, and that was all that I ate. And so I spent my lunch breaks at school like digging in the trash cans for food that other kids had thrown away. And that's just kind of one example of the types of things that she did. She, at another point, had gone to church and heard the scripture, spare the rod, spoil the child. And so she took that to mean that she needed to beat me on a regular basis in order to make sure that I became a good person. And so that's what she started doing. Like every day, whether I had done anything or not, she took it upon herself to to beat me. So there were a lot of horror stories like that throughout my childhood.
Yeah, I think the thing that is so amazing is you wanted to please your mom. You wanted to be the best daughter you could be. And I remember you shared with me one time about a particular incident where she wanted you to clean an entire kitchen in 10 minutes. Can you share that story with us?
Yeah, she was kind of, one of her things is that she would give me a chore to do, and she would give it to me in like an impossible amount of time. She always had time frames in which I needed to do things, and so she had a dinner party one evening, and sink full of dishes because she had prepared dinner for all of her guests, and came and let me out of my room and said, you need to clean the kitchen, and by the way, you have 10 minutes in which to do it. And so I rushed into the kitchen and started, trying to do my best to clean it, which I knew was not going to be feasible. And of course, 10 minutes came and I wasn't done, and so she walked in and was very upset with me because I didn't have all of the dishes clean, and she grabbed me by my hair and slammed my face into the countertop. And it actually, in the long run, turned out to be a good thing because I kind of snapped in that moment. I had had enough, and I just so happened to be washing a butcher knife at that point. And I turned around and I held it up to her throat, and I said, one of these days I'm going to kill you. And she started laughing, which was, again, not a sane response, but it led me to her deciding that I was crazy, so she took me to a psychiatrist, and he was the person that ended up calling social services on her. So,
well, and that example right there again does show how not sane she was. I mean, that's not that she did love you because you saw moments of her love, but then she would, in a flip of a switch, be abusive. And you shared with me one time about how your father was dying, and you had a close relationship with him, and she put the responsibility for you to even care for him on your shoulders.
Yeah, I was 7 when my dad. I was 8 when he died, but I was 7 when he got sick. He had prostate cancer, and she brought him to our. They were divorced by that time, but she brought him to our house and put him in my room and made me responsible for taking care of him, and also explicitly told me that it was my responsibility to make sure that he didn't die, which is impossible. There's no way that a human can wield that kind of power. But the unfortunate side of that is that when he died, I blamed myself, and so I spent many years thinking that I had murdered my father.
And I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you went through that because my father's passed as well, and the relationship with a father is a close one, and to have that feeling of pain and responsibility, I can't imagine. There was the day though that you were saved, and I'm so thankful where you were. I mean, you were 12 years old, still 50 pounds, I think, really light in weight, and just being abused on a daily basis, but thankfully, one social worker came back, and she basically discovered all the torture you were going through. Can you share that day with us?
Yeah, after my mom had taken me to the psychiatrist, he called social services, and they started coming out for weekly visits. And my mom would, shower me and dress me up really nicely and sit next to me with her arm around me and act like everything was wonderful, and then, beat me after they left. And this went on for several months, and finally one day the social worker had her visit, and then she left, and then my mom was actually in the process of beating me when the social worker came back. She said that she forgot her briefcase, and I'll never know if she actually did or if she just, had a suspicion that there was something more going on. But she walked right in on my mom beating me. She was actually beating me with a 2x4. The social worker called the police on the spot, and they came out and took me away that night. And I never went back. There were many times when they said they were going to send me back, but it never actually happened. So,
it's when you tell me these stories, and you lived it. But when you tell me these stories, my heart my heart breaks for you and for any child that may be going through that circumstance right now, or even anybody who may be in a domestic situation. I mean, when you look back on your life, does it almost feel, does it feel like an out-of-body experience? Does the triggers of pain, are they with you every day, even today? What does that feel like?
No. I look, but I think that, I've done a lot of work over the years. I went through therapy for many years, and I did a lot of spiritual work, and I did a lot of forgiveness work. And I think that the experiences that I had when I was younger, kind of molded the person that I am today. And so today, I think, one of my missions is like bringing more love into the world. And I think a big part of that is the understanding of what it's like to not have that in my life. And, I try to be compassionate and communicate with people and things like that. And I think that also stems from, the lack of all of that when I was a child. So I think that in many ways, the torture and abuse that I endured as a child, created this beautiful thing for me as an adult, because it really gave me the capacity to see the world in a different light. And I think that there are a lot of people in the world who are suffering and going through different things, and because of the wide variety of things I endured, I've been homeless, I've gone through drug abuse, I've gone through abuse, I've gone through, all of these different things. I think that there are very few people that I meet that I don't have a piece of me that can relate to what they're going through. And so I'm really able to help people and help transform their lives now because of what I went through as a child. So I think that I don't really carry the pain of it anymore. I think that I found the blessing in it.
For someone who is going through that torture, that pain, that abuse at this time, what advice would you give them in how they should survive, how they should get through the pain, get through the fire?
I think one of the things, I had a client ask me one time, how do you get past that? And my response to him was, you don't. You find the blessing in it. What is good about this? What has this negative experience given you that you can use to better your life or someone else's?
And I love that answer, because we're talking about giving today. We're talking about how can you give, and so I think you bring up such a perfect example there. In fact, we're going to be continuing your dialogue, your conversation here as we go along, and your story, and there's many more twists and turns, unfortunately for you, that you lived it, but right. I mean, right there, it's a perfect example that when we go through life, we can really learn and give to others in a big way. We'll be right back with Shayla Logut after this messages.
Hi, professional skateboarder Tony Hawk here with Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck to remind you to get moving every day.
Because when you get moving an hour a day,
you'll have the energy to skate through anything.
Nice play on words, Doc.
That's how I roll, Bugs. So whether you like to work the half pipe,
now that's catching air,
kick the soccer ball around, or dance in your room,
just move it your way
for an hour a day.
The way you like to move, as long as you're moving.
Carve out some time every day and get active. Because it's time to do a 180 on what you think exercise is.
Because it can be whatever you want it to be. So be a player.
Be a player.
Get up and play an hour a day, Doc. Check out how to be a player at letsmove.gov.
Head online to get tips on great ways to get moving every day.
At www.letsmove.gov. Let's hear that one more time, Doc. That's www.letsmove.gov. A message from the Ad Council and HHS.
I want to change some things. I want the moms where I live to have childcare they can trust.
I want to make sure my little brother and his friends have a safe place to play.
I want to help more kids graduate from high school.
Help more hardworking families learn how to budget and save.
I want more of my neighbors to have access to health care.
Want to make a difference? There are so many ways you can. Help create opportunities for everyone in your community.
I want to change what I see around here.
United Way is creating real, lasting change where you live by focusing on the building blocks of a better life: education, income, and health.
I just want to see more smiles on my sidewalks.
Reach out a hand to one and influence the condition of all. Give, advocate, volunteer. Live United. For more, visit United Way at liveunited.org. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
You're listening to Living Full Out with Nancy Solari. As a trusted life coach, Nancy will help you overcome setbacks and embrace all life has to offer. Call in with questions live at 800-333-0001. Once again, that's 800-333-0001. And now, here's Nancy.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Living Full Out Show. I'm Nancy Solari, and here I am with Shayla Logan. And for everybody who's just meeting Shayla here for the first time, she had been in 23 different foster homes as a child growing up. She unfortunately had been abused by her mentally ill mom, really tortured in many forms of abuse, had to support her father as he was dying and try to take care of him. And really her story goes on to even have more pain, unfortunately. But one thing about Shayla is she is a person of love and a person who truly demonstrates our theme for the day of giving. So I'd like to welcome back Shayla Logan.
Thank you.
Hi. All right. So thank you for being so open and honest with, your early years and all that you went through with your mom and that relationship and your father. And I'm sure that's just never quite goes away in terms of certain amounts of pain with it. But I thought what was so interesting is that you were in 23 different foster homes. I'm trying to wrap my head around how that even happens. Because I actually have friends that are fostering right now, and I know that their children have been in 2 or 3 homes. How was it that you were in so many?
Well, when I talk about my mom and dad, they were actually my adoptive parents, and so I was given up for adoption by my birth mother at birth, and so I went through about 4 different homes before I was adopted by the people that I refer to as my parents. And then after they took me away from my mom when I was 12, I was bounced through, about 18 other additional homes, and some of them were very short term, like when they first took me away. Obviously, the place that they put me was a very short term housing situation until they could find me a more permanent placement. And there was just a variety of circumstances that just landed me in, a lot of different places over the next, 6 years until I turned 18. Some of them were, intentionally short-term, and some of them were things just weren't working out in that home or, things like that. So, all in all, from the time I was born until I turned 18, I ended up with 23 different placements.
In being in so many homes, did that cause you to want to be more introverted, or did you become more extroverted because you were bounced around so much? I mean, as a child, how did that affect you?
It's funny because I refer to myself right now as an outgoing introvert. So I think a lot of people think that introverts are shy and don't have very good people skills. But I view it more as like, how do you recharge? And I definitely recharge by being alone, being with myself and by myself. Mm-hmm. But I'm also when I'm in out in the world, I am definitely very social and engaging and that kind of thing. So it's kind of a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Actually.
You mentioned how you were in your last foster home at 18. I know that dealing with all this pain, all this trauma that you went through, it really ate away at you in different forms, mentally, emotionally, physically, and caused you to want to commit suicide multiple times. Truly, your greatest attempt was at 19. Can you share with us about that day?
Yeah, it was kind of a unique experience. I think one of the things that I felt was that I didn't really exist in the world other than for people to abuse and beat up on, because I was also abused in many of the homes that I was at, the foster homes I was in, even after they took me away from my mom. And when I was 19, I woke up one morning and I just kind of had this knowledge that said, inside of me that said, you're going to die today, which really kind of freaked me out despite all of my previous suicide attempts, because I don't think that I ever actually wanted to die. I just didn't want the life that I had. And so I went downstairs to a neighbor's house and I asked to borrow his phone, and I called suicide hotline. And I was talking with the guy from Suicide Hotline, and I said, I really need help, and if I don't get it, I'm going to die today. And he said, well, what do you need? And I said, I don't know. I just know that I need help because, that there's this thing inside of me that says I'm going to die today, and I really kind of don't want to. And so we kind of had this circular conversation of, well, what do you need? I don't know, blah, blah, blah. And finally the guy from Suicide Hotline says to me, well, can I call you back later? Like, I need to take another call, which is kind of, unheard of because those are the people who are designed to help you. And here he was asking if he could just, get me off the phone.
Not the best customer service.
Yeah, exactly. Worst customer service award ever. Yeah.
Right.
So I was like, sure, yeah, absolutely. And so I hung up the phone and I started heading back up the stairs to my apartment. And I had this thought, and I thought, my entire life has not been mine. It's all been, everybody else's and everybody else's wants and desires and demands and all of this. And if I really am going to die today, it's going to be on my terms. And so in a really odd way, my suicide attempt that day was like me taking control over my life for the first time ever. I know that sounds kind of convoluted logic, but it was just really important to me that if it was going to happen, that it wasn't just going to happen by circumstance or by some random accident, that, if I was going to die that day, then I was going to control it because, that was the least I could do for, my 19 years of never having control out of my life. And I went upstairs. I had been placed on a medication, a psychiatric medication that was actually a derivative of medicine I was allergic to, and so it made me very ill, and so I had stopped taking it. But I didn't want to get in trouble with, the therapist and the people monitoring me, so I kept going in and getting refills. And so I went upstairs and I took a 6-month supply of that medication. And apparently the guy from Suicide Hotline did call back, and they came up to get me for the phone, and that's when they found me. And I ended up having a near-death experience from that suicide attempt. So it actually, in some ways, worked. I actually did die, and it was an amazing experience. I remember being in the, seeing my body in the hospital, laying in the bed, and seeing everyone rushing around trying to revive me, and feeling this peace and this love and this acceptance that I had not felt in my entire life, and trying to get them to stop trying to revive me because it was, I was okay for once, finally.
Well, I have to admit, I'm personally grateful that they did revive you, and you are living and here with us today. So clearly, you did not die. And here's the thing: is steps from that day, years from that day. I shouldn't say steps, but not too long from that time, you were gifted the Love Ambassador Award. And the reason why I jump right to that is because you had found love within yourself. You had committed to taking all that you had learned, and you wanted to give that knowledge to others. And I think it's very special that you got that Love Ambassador Award. Share with us about that.
There's an organization called the Love Foundation, and they have a program called the Love Ambassador Program, where they search for people globally that they believe embody unconditional love in their everyday lives. And so it's not necessarily people, like Mother Teresa, who are out doing, huge acts, but it's just people who are kind of, that's just who they are, and then the things that they're doing in the world. You have to be nominated by people to receive the award, and apparently several people nominated me. I had no idea until I got this letter saying that I had been, that several people had nominated me, and I had been given this award. So, and at the time, I don't know what the latest number is, but at the time that I was given the award, the Love Ambassador Award, they had only given it to 300 people worldwide. Out of 7 billion people on the planet. So it was quite an honor to, have somebody acknowledge the work that I was doing and the person that I had become, especially after all that I had been through previously.
Right. I mean, it's really remarkable how you found that love. You found a safe place. You found a home. And it's so interesting because sometimes we can hear stories or even our own stories, and we get past pain, and then we get into a positive place, and then it's what I want people to understand is life is never perfect. Life is gonna, even after you get through big hurdles and you become Love Ambassador, I'm sure that even today you have your own set of challenges. And the thing is what advice do you have for those just to keep going? Because just when life gets all perfectly ironed out, it'll get turned on your back.
Yeah, absolutely. I've definitely had experience with that. I know that you and I had a conversation previously about how I'm actually living with a brain tumor. So it's kind of one of those, life was going along just fine, and then boom, here's another twist kind of thing. So, definitely it's not like, I think that I had this idea for a long time that because I had been through so much as a child and early adulthood that I was kind of done. Like I had paid my dues and nothing else bad would ever happen to me, and that was definitely not the case. I think the things that, have worked the best for me in terms of just, keeping going is, number one, the concept of taking care of myself. What are you talking about giving? And one of the things that I tell my clients is you can't give someone a drink from an empty cup. And so if you're not, filling yourself up, you can't give to others, and I love being able to be a source of giving in the world, and so I always have to remember that I have to take care of myself first, and I have to love myself first. I think the second thing is having a sense of humor. I think that has really my humor has really gotten me through a lot of circumstances in my life that otherwise I wouldn't have been able to cope with. Being able to find, both the light and the humor in a situation really kind of transforms your perspective on it. And I know it's, some people will, well, how can you find anything funny about, being abused or, things like that? And it's not necessarily finding, that abuse is funny, but maybe finding a moment, in it that was amusing or that you could chuckle at or something like that. It really helps change your perspective on things.
Well, Shayla, we have to close up here shortly, but I was going to say you really are love in every form. And I want to thank you so much for being a part of our show today. And thank you for all your inspiring words. And just thank you from my heart to yours.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure being here. Thank you.
Absolutely. And for everybody listening, we'll be coming right back, taking your calls. And thank you again, Shayla Logan. We'll be back.
Hey, Dad.
Yeah.
You remember that ball game we went to a couple years ago?
Sure.
And how you didn't have enough cash for 2 hot dogs, so you walked with me on your shoulders until we found an ATM? And then when we got back to our seats, we never saw the hot dog guy again.
Well, I don't remember all that.
Yeah, that was an awesome game.
You never know which moments will be the ones they'll remember forever, so take time to be a dad today. Learn more at 1-877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov.
Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Medical mistakes claim tens of thousands of lives every year. The healthcare community is working on it, but you can help. When you communicate with your doctor, when you ask more questions, you reduce your risk of suffering a medical mistake. Doctors can't answer if you don't ask. Help reduce your risk. Questions are the answer. Learn the 10 questions you must ask. Visit www.ahrq.gov. This message brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, the Agency for Healthcare Research and Quality, and the Ad Council.
I'm getting a catcher's mitt.
I'm getting ice skates. I'm getting a devastating flood.
Adults are generous. We're even giving kids global warming, but we can still reduce greenhouse gas pollution. Go to fightglobalwarming.com. Brought to you by Environmental Defense, the Robertson Foundation, and the Ad Council.
There are many sounds in your daily life. Ones that make you smile. Ones that help you relax. And there are some sounds that can help save lives. Wireless emergency alerts, now on many mobile devices, use a unique sound and vibration to bring you critical information about emergencies in your area. With updates from local sources you know and trust, you can be in the know wherever you are. Learn more at ready.gov/alerts. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
This is President Barack Obama. In the story of America, the greatest chapters are moments of challenge, when we see people serving their country and one another. Volunteers who step forward into hospital corridors and church basements, along levees and fire lines. And the next chapter is yours to help write. Sign up to volunteer at usaservice.org. That's usaservice.org. Let's renew America together.
A message from Renew America Together, brought to you by the Ad Council.
A large aspect of living full out in life is to give, is to live your life in a purposeful way. And you will know when you are giving. You will know when you're in that alignment because you will feel it in your body. You'll feel warm. You'll feel as though you're making a difference, as though you've impacted somebody's life in a way that only you could. Living full out is about challenging yourself to step out there into times when it's uncomfortable, but yet at the same time, giving others that safe place to fall.
You're listening to Living Full Out with Nancy Solari. As a certified life coach, Nancy can help you to overcome challenges and start living full out. Call in with questions live at 800-333-0001. Once again, that's 800-333-0001. And now, here's Nancy.
Hello, everyone. This is Nancy Solari, and we are in the last segment of our show. I cannot believe it. But today we are talking about giving, and really all the callers so far and Shayla Logan's interview have all demonstrated the fact that we want to give. We want to be of service to others. We want to make an impact in the lives of others. But in doing so, we do have to take care of ourselves. We have to check in with ourselves and assess what is not working, what is working. Because if we don't take time to assess, if we don't sometimes slow the car down, slow our lives down, then we don't have that time to really examine, okay, this is not working. Okay, I need to make a change here. I need more resources there. And it's funny, I was talking to a friend the other day, and she was saying, oh my gosh, Nancy, life is going so fast, and I feel like I can't get enough things done in a day. And I asked her, well, what does your day look like? And she told me her day, and I said, well, that's why life is going fast. Sometimes life, we overcommit ourselves. We just get so wrapped up in being busy that we miss it. We miss life. And so part of the time that we take in this show is to slow life down, is for you to get nurtured, to get more fulfilled, to get motivated. And again, your calls are an important part of this show. We welcome you to call in at 800-333-0001. And it's interesting because, you know, life is funny. I mean, even Shayla Logan in our last segment mentioned how humor is what got her through so many challenging times in her life. Life is funny because you have to laugh at it. You know, it's one of those things where you can wake up in a day and you can have a complete plan for your life, but it's better to not plan. It's better to keep it a little bit spontaneous, because when you do plan, you know those things are going to come up that are just going to uproot your day, and you have to like smile and kind of go, yep, I knew this was coming, because they will come. And part of that is just being ready. You know, every day I wake up, literally, and people will say this, they've seen me say it, it's game on. Whatever life has for me that day, bring it. I'm ready. I got my 8 hours. I'm ready to go. So here's the thing. We're going to go back to the phone lines now. Welcome to the Living Full Out Show.
Hi. My question is, I'm applying to med school this summer, and I'm just trying to figure out how to balance, like, taking the MCAT, doing volunteer work, getting good grades. How would you say is the best way to deal with all of that stress?
Well, that is a lot. That is a very healthy plate. And, you know, one of the questions I have for you is, how are you taking care of yourself currently under these stressful times?
It gets frustrating at times, but I'd say it's going all right.
Do you do things in your life to expel that stress in your body? Do you work out? Do you eat well?
Not really.
Okay. And that's an honest answer. You get points for honesty. And the reason why I say this is the question you asked me is, how do you find balance? How do you manage stress? But that's a really big question. And sometimes when we ask big questions in life, we have to break it down and simplify it. Because if we and your life is a perfect example, right? If we bite off a big bite, if we're chewing a lot of different things at one time, it's hard to digest all that life is giving you. And the thing is as stressful as all this time is in your life, these are actually very special moments in your life. There are people that you've met that you're going to meet in each of these experiences, and you don't want to rush it. There's things that you're going to learn about yourself, ways in which you cope with stress, ways in which you survived an exam, ways in which you troubleshooted something that came your way that was unexpected. If you're constantly running and constantly rushing, and sometimes in life we just go into complete denial mode, we just try to put things aside, I'll get to it later, then you don't get to relish in that moment. And I just want to put out there to you, is there a time recently when you were just overwhelmed and stressed, and then when the clouds parted and the day got a little lighter, that you realized, why was I so worked up?
Yeah.
Has that happened to you recently?
Yes, it has.
And would you even gamble to say that maybe it's happened more than the fingers on one hand or two?
Yeah.
Okay. And I just point that out to you because in life, we're just going to get worked up. And I promise you this, if you smile and if you really say, wow, this is my life, how lucky am I to have such a full life? Oh my gosh. I mean, there's a lot going on right now. I have a lot of commitments, but wow, with all of this experience, I can't help but be successful. I can't wait for that. So when we get excited about life, when we look at even the stresses and the challenges in the day in a positive way, it gives us that inner strength to get through it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we believe in you. You're out there living full out in a big way. So I wouldn't change a thing. I would just be good to yourself. And again, really try to find the beauty, the lessons, the excitement of even the stressful moments in your life.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you. You too.
So she brings up a great question. Sometimes in life, we just get overwhelmed. I mean, literally overwhelmed. I'll even be honest. This is kind of an interesting story. I'm sure one of my producers here, Rich, will smile when I tell this story. But, even yesterday, even I, as an optimistic, very positive person through my day, sometimes even I have days where the amount of things to do just layer on top of me. And I literally look at the hours and I think, okay, now it's 9:00 at night and there's still more to be done. And yesterday I was prepping for today and had life coaching sessions with clients, and I was giving. And I think I got to a moment in my day where I was finally alone, and it was finally just me. And I listened to some music, and ironically, the first song that came on was Have I Told You Lately That I Love You, a song that I sang to my dad when he was in the hospital bed dying, and of course, that made me feel sad. And then another song, literally the next song, was a song that reminded me of a time in my life, way back in my early 20s when I had gone through a lot of financial stress. And I have to admit, like Shayla Logan in our inspirational guest in our last segment, I had moments of hopeless times, moments of doubts, and where was my life going to go? And that song also triggered a moment of sadness. And then the third song came on, and yes, that was my first love breakup song. And so literally these 3 songs in a row took me to a place of, this doesn't feel so good. And I was kind of sad. And then I get a call from my producer, just checking in on today's show. And are we ready? And one of the first things he said to me was, Nancy, I got to tell you, when I listen to these shows and I shut my eyes, you're so positive and you're so happy. And it's like, you're the same person each week. And the reason why I share that story with you is because in that moment, that's exactly what I needed. And when I then, after that call, turned back on my iPhone, random shuffle selection, a more positive song came on. And then the next song was positive. And I don't believe that any of that happens by accident. When you call somebody out of the blue and tell them you care or tell them you're proud of them, when, like one of our very first callers to the show, our caller who was dealing with the long-distance relationship and how to keep that flame alive, I guarantee you if he does spontaneous gestures like sends her a card or sends her a text to let her know he's thinking of her, that will lighten her day. It's amazing how much power, how much ability we have to shift the mindset of someone's day. That is a huge way of giving to someone else. Now, I want to shift for a second and talk about giving to yourself. Our last caller was a great example of that. We can't give to others unless we're able to give that away. And sometimes if you're feeling like you're in a funk or you're upset or you're sad, those emotions are real. Those emotions need to cycle through your body. So cry hard, get it out. If you're angry, get it out. Call a friend who will let you talk out that anger with them. Whatever you do, do not hold those feelings, those emotions inside, because that's how we get sick. That's how we get to a place of stress that's really hard to rebound from. So as we kind of close out today's show, I just want you to smile. I want you to look ahead at your weekend, look ahead at your week and your month, and think about whose life can you make a difference in today? Who can you give to, either by a positive message or a way of service to make their life easier? And then also consider how you're going to give to yourself, because you are your best friend. You are your best advocate. So don't turn on yourself. Make sure that you fill yourself up with positive energy as well. Next week, we're going to be coming back with more inspiration, taking your calls. That's what we do at the Living Full Out Show. You can listen live each week and get lots of resources by going to livingfullout.com. If you have questions for me, or if you're needing that motivation and you're just feeling stuck and not really sure how to tap into that, give me a call. Your friend Nancy is there for you. You can reach me at 310-909-7800, extension 101. And send me an email as well, whatever form of communication works best for you. But truly, we are all here to support you at the Living Full Out family. Again, thanking my entire team here. We have Mindy and Diane and Ashawn, everybody here with me, and Rich, and really everybody who has taken time to put together a show that moves you forward so that you can give and live your life full out. Everybody have a wonderful day, and we'll see you next week.